This is the review video for the properties of exponents. You guys have a quiz coming up, and I wanted to make sure that if you did have any questions or you were still struggling with those problems that had multiple properties of exponents in them, that you had a little bit more instruction. So we did a review in class today. It was the I Heart Exponents worksheet. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to take a few of the problems that I was asked about, and I'm going to work those in this video. So what you should notice here is I'm starting with a very important reference material that you guys have available to you, which is your STAR Algebra I reference materials. It's your formula chart that I keep referring to in class. Now what I notice is a lot of times when we're taking notes, you guys will have your formula chart out on your desk, but you don't actually use it. You will ask me to clarify a property, or I'll kind of guide you to what you're supposed to be doing. And so I'm concerned that you're not going to be able to actually utilize this when you're taking your test. So remember, I told you could use this on your quiz, you can use this on your exponents test, and then you'll also be able to use it on your EOC. So it's important that you're familiar with it. So I suggested that you go ahead and you translate and you kind of write in words what each property actually means in case you are struggling with this algebraic representation. So the properties that are going to be on your quiz are the product of powers property, the quotient of powers property. We're going to have power of a power and some negative exponents, and then of course we'll have some combining like terms. So let's go ahead and work a few examples. The first problem that I'm going to work for you guys and kind of walk you through is actually problem 9 on the I Heart Exponents worksheet, and it looks like this. There are parentheses, and then it's negative 2xy, and that's raised to the second power. Then it's being multiplied by 10x cubed y to the 11th, and then all of that is being divided by 8x to the 10th y to the 4th. So this is going to utilize a couple of the properties that we've talked about, and the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to use my power of a power right here to simplify that monomial. The power of a power rule is when you give that exponent to all the things inside the parentheses. So when I do that, I'm going to wind up with 4, because that's what negative 2 squared is, x squared, y squared, and then everything else remains the same. So I still have my 10x cubed y to the 11th, and I still have my 8x to the 10th y to the 4th. Then from here, I'm going to use my product of powers rule, which means I'm going to be multiplying right here. So I'm going to do 4 times 10, which is 40. I'm going to do x squared times x to the 3rd. So your product of powers rule states that you are going to keep your base and add those exponents when you're multiplying powers with like bases. Then I'm going to do y times y to the 11th. So I keep my base and I add those exponents. I'm going to go ahead and bring my denominator over, because the last thing I need to do is I need to go ahead and use my quotient of powers property, which means I'm going to be dividing. So I divide my coefficients. 40 divided by 8 is 5. Then x to the 5th divided by x to the 10th. So remember, since my larger exponent, my variable with my larger exponents on bottom, I know that I am going to be left with x to the 5th, because that's what 10 minus 5 is, on the bottom. Then I have y to the 12th divided by y to the 4th, so I keep my base and I subtract those exponents and I get y to the 8th on top. And then that is going to be my simplified answer, 5y to the 8th over x to the 5th. I know I'm finished when I can't do any more math. I can't multiply anything else. I can't divide. I can't raise a power to a power. I don't have any negative exponents. So I know that I'm finished and I've simplified my problem. Another problem that I answered several questions about in class today was number 10 on that same review, which was 8x cubed times 12xy to the 7th over 3x squared y to the 4th, and then that was minus 15x squared y to the 3rd. So when you start out here, you want to go ahead and multiply, so you're using your product of powers rule. So when you do that, you're going to multiply 8 times 12, which is 96. Then I'm multiplying x to the 3rd times x. So remember, you keep your base and you add those exponents. Then you still have that y to the 7th that's part of that product. Then that's going to get divided by 3x squared y to the 4th, and I still need to subtract 15x squared y cubed from that. Then at this point, I'm going to be dividing. So I'm going to divide out my coefficients first. 96 divided by 3 is 32. Then I have x to the 4th divided by x squared. So remember, you keep your base, subtract your exponents. Then I have y to the 7th divided by y to the 4th. So you keep your base, subtract your exponents. At that point, you should realize that you have like terms. That means that they have the same variables with the same exponents. So I can subtract. So I'm going to do 32x squared y cubes minus 15x squared y cubes, which is going to leave me with 17x squared y cubes. Now what I'm noticing is a lot of you do things to your exponents when you're simply adding and subtracting. Don't forget, when you add and subtract, you deal with the coefficients, but your variables and exponents remain the same. Okay, so that was problem 10 on your review. I am going to also work one from the right side. I'm actually going to work the one that is right next to the word brown. So let's go ahead and look at that one. So that problem was 3x to the 3rd, y to the 4th, times 6xy to the negative 5, and it's being divided by the quantity 3xy squared. Okay, so this reviews several of the exponent properties. So the first thing that I'm going to deal with is I'm going to deal with this power to a power. So I'm going to give that square to every piece of this. So when I do that, I'm going to get 3x cubed y to the 4th times 6xy to the negative 5. That didn't change. And then 3 squared is 9. And then I have x squared, y squared. Then from here, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to multiply, and I'm going to move my negative down to make that positive. Remember, this negative exponent moves that y to the 5th down into the denominator. So I'm going to do 3 times 6, that's 18. I'm going to do x cubed times x, so that's x to the 4th. Remember, we're adding our exponents there. I'm going to keep this y to the 4th on top, but I'm going to move that y to the 5th down to get rid of that negative exponent. Then I'm just going to take this and move it over there. So I have 9x squared y squared. So now I'm going to go ahead and simplify some. So I have 18 divided by 9. That's going to give me 2. I have x to the 4th divided by x squared. That's going to give me x squared. Because remember, when you're dividing here, you subtract those exponents. Then these two, remember, those combine to make y to the 7th, because when you're multiplying powers with like bases, you add your exponents. But then I need to do this division right here. So y to the 4th over y to the 7th is going to leave me with y cubed in the denominator. Remember, 7 minus 4 is 3, but since my larger exponent was in the denominator, my variable is going to remain there. And then this would be my simplified answer. Okay? I know this is a lot of steps, and I know there's a lot going on, but you have your formula chart there to help you. So you just need to identify which property property you're using each time, and then make sure that you're organizing your work so that you don't lose track of anything. Okay, so if you're having any issues so we've done 2 weeks of properties of exponents, and then we did 1 whole day of review where we were reviewing all the properties, and now you have this video. You are going to have a quiz on Friday, but if you have any questions, hopefully you've either been coming in for tutoring or you need to come in for tutoring as soon as possible. Have a great afternoon.